Okay. Somebody in my Discord community was talking about having me do something unique for this one. You see, the song Attention by Charlie Puth was covered by both Voiceplay and Pentatonics. And I've been spending a lot of time reacting to a cappella groups. And so I know that I need to start working towards reacting to other groups, other types of music. I've had a really, really strong response recently from the Prince community for the one video that I did featuring Prince covering While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And so, like, that's an indicator to me that there's a lot of other fan bases out there that are very passionate about seeing reactions to these videos. That being said, before I move on from doing a lot of acapella stuff, and when I say move on, I don't mean completely. Like, I'm always going to be reacting to acapella stuff because I love it. I love the music. But I need to diversify a bit more. And before I do that, I think that this was an interesting idea that was presented to me. And I think I need to do it. So this is what I'm going to do is compare Voiceplay's version of Attention versus Pentatonic's version of Attention and see how they differ and how they approach the songs differently, how they approach the arrangements differently. And so let's jump into it. Let's start with Voiceplay. This is their cover of Charlie Puth's Attention.
Throwing that dirt all on my name.
Hey, Rachel's back.
'Cause you knew that I knew that I knew that I'd call you up.
You've been going around every party in LA. 'Cause you knew that I knew that I knew that I'd be at one. Oh,
I know this dress is karma, perfume regret. You got me thinking about when you were mine.
And now I'm all upon you, what you'd expect. You're not coming home with me tonight.
You just want attention. You don't want my heart. Maybe you just hate the thought of me with someone new.
You know, it never gets discussed enough, but there's so much rhythm that happens in the bass part. It's part of the reason why when you talk about a rhythm section in a band, you have drums and bass, sometimes guitar, sometimes piano. You know, like in the case of a jazz band or a band that would include a piano. The rhythm exists outside of what you expect from like a traditional drum set or percussion or like the tubes that they're playing on, you know, at the beginning of this video. One of Jeff's strengths as a bass is not just his ability to sing low notes. It's also his rhythmic acumen. The guy is insanely rhythmically talented and intricate, and very much like the singers that work with Pentatonics or like basically all of the guys in Home Free, they're all incredibly dialed in rhythmically. That's one of the fundamental parts of what makes this kind of a cappella music work. That all of that rhythm that exists in like the strumming of a guitar or the tonguing of a horn note or the the banging of a drum, all of that rhythm has to exist within their voices along with the notes and the melodies and stuff. So right when Jeff drops in and you hear that groove just like smack you in the face, man, like it's just it's so good.
You just want attention. I knew from the start. You're just making sure I'm never getting over you.
Run around, throwing that dirt up on my name. 'Cause you knew that I knew that I knew that I...
Oh, hold up. Okay. So they're using filters here, which is a part of a cappella production that doesn't get played with very much, but I think they're trying to I think here they're trying to utilize filters in a similar way that Charlie used in his master for Attention when he recorded it. I got to back that up just a touch. Check this out. Watch his hand as he's like turning his hand. It's like he's turning a filter dial.
Run around throwing that dirt up on my name. 'Cause you knew that I knew that I knew.
So this is called a low pass filter. And it's actually, funny enough, it's built onto every DJ mixer and every DJ controller, like just as a standard part of the control system, because DJs use these all the time to either roll off high notes if they want to keep a bass line, but then bring in a melody or harmony from another song, or vice versa. You can cut out a bass line and bring in a bass line from something else. There's a lot of times where I'll be playing a song and I'll bring in the bass line from Billie Jean, or I'll bring in the bass line from Give It To Me Baby by Rick James, something like that, where the filter, all the filter's doing is finding a certain frequency and then basically cutting off everything past that point. So a low pass filter finds a frequency and then cuts off everything above it, allowing the low frequencies to pass through. Vice versa, a high pass filter finds a certain frequency, cuts off everything below that frequency, and allows the high frequencies to pass through. So what they're using here as they're transitioning from the chorus back into the next verse, they're using that high pass filter, or excuse me, I think it's a low pass filter. Actually, let me hear that again.
Run around, throwing that dirt up on my name.
So when he's singing, run around, throwing that dirt upon my name, right? As he's doing that, the harmonies behind the lead line are going through a low pass filter that's slowly being removed, and it makes this really cool effect where you're hearing the frequencies sort of sweep across a band slowly until they eventually get to the end of that line where they cut the filter off, and now you're hearing full resonance, full singing. One more time.
Run around, throwing that
Yeah, there's that low pass.
Cause you knew that I'd call you up. Baby, another win, right here, standing face to face. You already know that you won. I know that dress is karma, perfume regret. Got me thinking about when you were mine. Now I'm all on you, what you expect. And you're not coming home with me tonight.
You just want attention. You don't want my heart.
Maybe you just hate the thought of me with someone new.
I like the use of color. I really like the way they're using the colored lights behind the windows and in the background to sort of add a splash where it doesn't really feel natural, but it sort of lends to the aesthetic of the video. Really saw a similar use of color in one of the Pentatonics videos that I reacted to. Which one was that? It was their original piece, Happy Now, I think. Yeah, where it was like it was all kind of dark and gray and almost monochromatic until the song started to pick up, and then we started seeing splashes of color in the background, and it made this really cool effect where it was like the background was colored, but then the singers were still monochromatic for a little bit until eventually by the end of the video we had full color. Here nor there, and I know I've got another song to get to, so we're going to keep this thing moving, but what I wanted to call attention to here was not just the color, but also just the fact that Rachel's adding so much to this mix. Having a whole group of guys is, one type of like auditory aesthetic. And I mean no disrespect to the guys. Like, they're all fantastic singers. When the guys all sing together, it makes for a really, really fantastic sound. I think adding that one female voice just completely changes the dynamic of their sound and makes it really new and interesting, especially when you have an incredible talent like Rachel that can I'm going to use the term keep up with the guys, but that's not really what I mean. What I mean is somebody who is as talented, if not more so, at both at the rhythmic stuff, at the runs, like just everything. Rachel's so incredible. And so it's absolutely no wonder why they include her on several other mixes. I wonder what two I wonder what the guys would sound like with two girls in the mix. Yeah, it's interesting, especially because you have a group like Pentatonics who has Mitch, who's just got an incredibly high range and just incredibly high range, and there are times where it's hard for me to tell. Not often, but sometimes it's hard for me to tell if it's Kirsten or Mitch that's singing in some of those Pentatonics recordings. So we get kind of a two female vibe when the two of them start sort of trading high notes and stuff. Yeah, it's a really stark difference to me. And I think it lends a lot, especially to a tune like this that, originally sung by Charlie. So like hearing a female version of this, kind of does the same thing, has the same, pulls the same sort of switch, of the vibe. Anyway, let's keep it moving.
Yeah, you just want attention. I knew from the start. You're just making sure I'm never getting over. You just wanna. What are you doing now? Got me thinking about when you were mine. You just wanna do that I
Call you dirt on mine.
You're not coming home with me tonight. Oh.
Hold up. What was that?
Where now? Got me thinking about when you were. I knew from the start. You're just making sure I'm never getting over. You just wanna. What are you doing now? Got me thinking about when you were mine. You just wanna do that I
Call you dirt on mine.
You're not coming home with me tonight.
So they're almost, it's kind of like they're remixing themselves in the middle of the recording. A lot of times when DJs do that, it's either through samples or what are called hot cues, where our software in the DJ world allows us to find a specific word or phrase or specific spot in a song. We can dial in exactly what spot we want, hit a button to record a hot cue, or otherwise mark a hot cue, and then we can call that back at any time. So I can sit there and play it like a piano or like a finger drum set, and I can do those kinds of sort of stuttering effects with my fingers. And there's even software now that allows you to do it to what's called a beat grid. So you can actually dial in a beat grid down to 1/32 of a note, and it'll take whatever the tempo of the song is, apply the beat grid over that tempo. And that way everything is perfectly sliced on beat. So even if I'm doing it with my fingers, if everything's assigned to the beat grid, it's perfectly in time every time. I can't mess that up. And so, I mean, it takes a lot of time and a lot of prep to do that. But if you take the time to prep that as a DJ and then perform it out live, it's going to sound perfect almost every time, as long as you're anywhere close to the, being on beat. So I want to imagine that they're doing this vocally. They're not using in-studio effects to do this. I don't think it's necessary to do that, because the rhythm of what they're doing is not complicated enough to warrant, the insertion of computer production at this point. But them doing it vocally here is emulating what you hear a lot in pop music, where it's being remixed in software, using either hot cue triggers like what we use as DJs, or a lot of producers can just reproduce it on a timeline in their computer as they're going through and producing the track.
What are you doing to me? What are you doing?
There's some more of it. Yeah.
What are you doing to me? What are you doing now? What are you doing to me? What are you doing now? What are you doing to me? What are you doing now?
I know that dress is karma.
Perfect.
Perfume regret.
Got me thinking
Perfect.
about when you were mine. You just want attention. You don't
Wow.
want my heart. Maybe you
That was a real big chord.
Worth mine. You just want attention. You don't want my heart. Maybe you just hate the thought of me with someone new. Yeah, you just want attention. I knew from the start. You're just making sure I never get enough.
What are you doing? You just want attention. You don't want my heart. Maybe you just hate the thought of me with someone new.
What are you doing to me? What are you doing now? What are you doing to me? What are you doing now? What are you doing to me? What are you doing now? What are you doing to me? What are you doing now?
Nice. Very well done. Okay, so here's what I want to do. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna produce 2 videos with this. I'll make the second, so I'll call this part 1. I'm gonna do part 2 with Pentatonix version of Attention tomorrow. Well, I mean, I'm gonna do it today, but I'll release it the day after I release this. So, if y'all want to see part 2, make sure that you check that out as soon as the day after this comes out. And I want to hold some of my thoughts of the overall mix and the overall arrangement of what they're doing until I hear Pentatonix, because I think it's less about critiquing a Voiceplay's version as it is comparing it to Pentatonix version. And it's not really about which one's better. It's about, how they make choices to sort of do things differently as artists, because they're both covering the same song and they don't always do that. So I'm going to call it here. I'm going to come back tomorrow with words. I'm going to come back tomorrow with Pentatonix version. And if you haven't had a chance, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. I recently released a whole bunch of episodes of my podcast. They're all very long. I didn't include a lot of notes about what we were talking about on each podcast. The whole point of that was just to get it into a playlist. That podcast will be released once a week moving forward. So you're not going to see a wall of videos show up in your subscription feed anymore. I want to thank everybody that stuck around through that. I did lose a few subscribers, but to be completely honest with you, any subscribers that weren't interested in allowing me to create other stuff besides this, it doesn't do either of us any good for you to stick around here. So I really want you to subscribe. I really want you to enjoy the content that I'm creating, and I want you to continue to leave those great comments and like the videos and all that stuff. But if you don't want to be here, I don't want you to be here. Like, I want people who want to be here. So that being said, thank you so much for watching this video, this version of Attention as done by Voiceplay featuring Rachel Potter. And if you would, do me a favor, make sure you check me out on Facebook, Instagram.com/DJSwitchPDX. Obviously, subscribe here at YouTube.com/DJSwitchPDX. And last but not least, you can find me. I'm now streaming 3 nights a week and not 4. I've decided to stop streaming on Mondays so I can focus more on YouTube production, which I think should make all of you folks happy. So now 3 nights a week on twitch.tv/DJSwitchPDX. You can find me there Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. So thanks very much for hanging out, y'all, and I will see you on the next video, part 2, Pentatonix version of Attention, coming up tomorrow. Thanks.